everyone, it's Danielle with Northlawn Flower Farms. In today's video, I want to talk about potting up seedlings. What does it mean to pot up a seedling? Why do we do it? And then let's pot up some seedlings together so you can see the process from start to finish. So all potting up means is taking a seedling that's in a small tray and transferring that seedling into a larger tray. That's really all it means. But more importantly, why do we pot up seedlings? Well, here I have a tray, a cell tray of China asters, and these have just gotten their first set of true leaves, and that tells me that they've pretty much exhausted their space in these round small cell trays, and I need to bump them up. If I were to let them continue to live in these cell trays for say even 2 more weeks, they would get root bound in here. It would be really hard for their root system to absorb water. So we need the pot to grow with the plant. So we need to go ahead and pot them up. And also something to think about, these China asters are not ready to go out into the garden in April. They like warm weather. They want to be set out in about early to mid-May here in my zone 6B. So I really do need to continue to grow them on inside in my house under grow lights. Now, on a different note, if you were growing something like these Foxy Foxgloves, which are small, and you could pot them up at this point, that's really not necessary because these are a cold tolerant annual, they're a hardy annual, and they can be planted directly out into the garden now. So it's really not worth my time and the extra potting soil to pot them up. So think about, is it time for them to go out into the garden? Maybe you don't need to pot them up. But if it's something like a tomato and it's April and you're in zone 6B, you definitely want to pot those things up and keep them inside under lights until it's the ideal condition for them to go out into the garden. Well, now let's just pot up some seedlings together. Alright, so what I'm starting out with for this process is, of course, my larger seed trays. I'm going to use a good quality potting mix. I like to use Fry's potting mix. If for some reason I can't get my hands on Fry's, I like to use Black Gold. And I want to make sure that the night before I've watered in my seedlings, because this is going to make them easier to pop out of these trays. So step one is to moisten our potting soil because, you know, when it comes right out of the bag, it's very, very dry. And if I were to put that dry soil into the cell packs right now and then water it, a lot of bubbling is going to occur, a lot of shifting. Oh, I guess Rocky wants to pot up seedlings too. So always when you're starting any seed or potting up, you know, make sure that you're working with a moist medium. So I like to put the water directly in the bag at this point when there's not a ton of soil left. And then I just kind of mix it together. And you know, moist, not sopping wet, is what you're going for. And that feels good. So at this point, I can just fill up my seed tray. And I'm going to pretty much fill it up all the way to the top. Make sure to tamp it down. Once again, we don't want any air pockets. We want that root system nice and secure when we pot these things on. Okay? I like to do it in the bag because it's not quite as messy that way. Alright, so I've got my soil in my tray, my moist soil. So what I'm going to do is take my thumb and just poke a nice size hole into each of these. That's where my little baby seedling is going to be nestled into. And then most of these small circular trays have a little hole in the bottom, which is really convenient because you can use something like a butter knife, a popsicle stick is probably what I'm going to use today, or even a screwdriver to push these through. But the main thing when you're doing this, really I think the only mistake that can be made is to handle them by the stem. The stem is incredibly delicate. We really don't want to touch that at all. best case scenario is to handle this seedling completely by the root system. My next option would be to handle it by a true leaf. Not a cotyledon, which is these baby leaves, but the true leaf of the plant you can also handle it by. But really, you should be able to handle it by the root system the whole time. So I like to start by giving it a little squeeze. Get ready for it to come up. You know, push it up. There it is. You know, because I watered it last night, it's nice and tight and secure together. If I hadn't watered this, it would be a lot harder to do this process. Once again, I'm only touching it by the soil and the root system. I'm going to stick my China aster down in there, put the soil around her. And that's literally all there is to it, my friends. We have potted that China aster up, and let's pot up some more. But basically at this point, I'm going to pot up this whole tray. I'm going to bottom water it like I do all my seedlings at the beginning, and then I'm going to stick it back under the lights inside. So let's just keep going. You know, gently push out. Really, a screwdriver is a really nice way to do it. I probably should have gotten one out of the garage. But, you know, just use what you have on hand. Okay, stick this guy in there. Now, if for some reason, maybe you haven't had these guys close enough to shop lights, grow lights, whatever, you can plant them a little bit deeper and solve that leggy stem issue. Okay. Look at that. Look at how it just comes right out. And it's ready. These guys are ready for their new home. Once again, I'm not touching it by its stem at all. Okay. Keep going. Squeeze. Push. And out she comes. Alright, well, I think you get the general idea now. Well guys, I hope that was really helpful to see me pot up those China asters. You see, it's not hard. The key is to start with seedlings that have been watered the night before. Use a good quality potting mix and try to be sure not to handle them by the stem. Handle them by the root system or its first set of true leaves as you transfer it from the smaller tray into its larger tray. And now at this point, these guys are going to get watered from underneath, get a good drink, and they're going to be put back under my grow lights for about 3 weeks until they're ready to go out in the garden for the season. Well, I hope these tips and tricks were helpful, and until next time, happy gardening. Bye!